What do you believe right now that's making you feel this way? And when you analyse it, you realise how irrational you can be at times.
Every single one of our major customers and minor customers all shut their doors overnight.
It's not sales per se, but the outcome of it is, because people get to know you, they get to see you.
But, what's the culture like at the business? What do we stand for, the values?
I've got to tick that box on my personal development programme I don't really want to be here.
Scaling up a business isn't easy. If it were, we wouldn't have less than 4% of businesses scaling beyond 10 employees or around £1 million turnover level, and less than 1% beyond 50 employees. But the contribution that we make as owner-managers to our economies is immense and should never be underestimated. Yet it can be a tough gig for all of us at times, and only other business owners truly understand the challenges that we face. And through ScaleUp Radio, we aim to help make things a little easier. We interview guests who have been where you are now and may have faced some of the challenges that you are facing. And they offer their thoughts and advice on what has worked for them, as well as what didn't. And we've also combined many of the lessons from these interviews, and also through working with hundreds of owner managers over the last 10 years or so, into a practical scale-up handbook that we've called the Entrepreneurial Scale-Up System, or ESUS. And it's for owner managers like you and me as we navigate our own scale-up journey. And you can order a copy through your favourite online book retailer, or by going to all the W's, esusgroup.co.uk, www.esusgroup.co.uk.
Hello, I'm Granger Forson, www.bizsmart-gloucestershire.co.uk, or find me on LinkedIn. This time on ScaleUp Radio, I speak with Neil Cullen, the owner of Energise Technologies. Energise Technologies focuses on helping the not-for-profit, charity and education markets with a number of pillars including technical consultancy, software development, technical advice and technical skill training. They're based in Tetbury, but as you'll hear, their staff can be located anywhere in the world. Neil started the business in 2017 with the aim to grow organically and to develop the business around his ethics. It is interesting hearing Neil's story about how some key change points in his life led to creating the business and how it has grown by taking on one member of staff each year. As always, we cover a lot of ground, including choosing the right customer that fits your ethics can lead to beneficial cash flow discussions for both parties. When the business leader is needed to step in and do the development work, they're also subject to the same standard of quality and feedback as everybody else. And aiding your customer to be successful in growth allows your business to grow alongside them. What is so fascinating about this conversation with Neil is how he has from day one built his business around a big business structure so that he's not stuck in the owner's trap we so often talk about. You may not be a techie person, but I know you'll get so much out of this episode. So let's go over and hear from Neil. Welcome, Neil Cullen, to ScaleUp Radio. Please introduce yourself and your business.
Firstly, thank you for inviting me on. My name's Neil Cullen from Energise Technology, and we provide technology solutions particularly tailored to charities, not-for-profits and education providers. And our aim really is to help those groups of organisations provide sort of exceptional service to their users.
So, not-for-profits and education, we'll probably guess on what education is, but, tell us a bit more about your clients. Who are they and what are they after in terms of technology solutions?
Yeah, so we've my background is I spent a lot of time in sort of education in terms of technology and software really. So our customers range from a lot of different types of organizations. So they might be sort of small charities who want just general technology advice, through to kind of larger charities that either want software developed, or they might want technical consulting or training. We've done a lot of work with one particular organisation in upskilling their development team to bring it up to the latest sort of software development kind of practices. So there's a lot of variation there. We've worked with a mix of sort of normal limited companies that have kind of good ethics, if that makes sense, sort of ethical businesses. And we've also worked with sort of social enterprises and those kind of things as well. So yeah, a real sort of wide range, but we tend to work with small, medium enterprises, that sort of size of organization, and yeah, ethical businesses.
So you've talked about you give technical advice, software development, technical consultancy, upskilling. So in terms of education, what are those educational SMEs that you're talking to? Or are we talking about schools and colleges, or?
Yeah, tend not to be sort of education delivery providers. So we haven't really worked with schools and colleges, those kind of things. But what we do is work with organisations that support that sector. So it might be awarding organisations, so people that develop and administer qualifications inside colleges, schools. We also have done a really big project with one of our biggest customers who we've worked with for a number of years now. So Becoming X, who are a sort of a social enterprise really that have developed an education platform for teachers to help. It's particularly focused around the PSHE curriculum in schools. So we built a whole sort of learning environment for those back-end administration, all of that kind of thing.
Okay, yes, now I can see it in terms of the structure. Right. So give us a feel of how big is your business?
So there's 5 of us, so not a huge business, but yes, we're definitely expanding. We've been on an upward trajectory ever since we started. I took the decision really that I wanted to grow the business organically. I was involved in a startup a very long time ago now, but that was funded by external investors, and that was really good, and it was good for a lot of reasons. But one of the things that I wanted to do when I started Energise was to do it organically, so that we could be in a little bit more control about the direction that we wanted to take.
Being in more control. Okay, that's an interesting question. I can guess probably what that means in terms of doing so. But what does that mean to you in terms of why you wanted to be in more control? Yeah,
I think when and maybe this was just the external investors that we had at the time. It was in the so it's probably 15 years ago now. So it was that point in time where there was a lot of investment in technology businesses, and we got a couple of rounds of external funding. But what it meant was that really the business was tied into the direction that you'd taken the funding on. There was a set of conditions around that sort of thing. And so there's always this external pressure to go into a certain direction, really. And one of the things that I felt in this business was that I wanted ethics to play a very strong role in what we do and the kind of work that we take on. And I think there's a challenge there between in a lot of organisations between ethics and profit. So if someone's if you've taken on external funding, there is pressure there to maximise the profits for other people potentially. Whereas when you've got control and it's in your sort of sphere, you can make decisions which are maybe different from maybe aren't particularly focused around the profit, but you can balance it out with some things which you think are a good cause as well.
I totally agree in terms of that. From my experience, both in the corporate world and the business world, of driven by profits can affect your ethics within the business. Give us some examples how taking control in Energise and is actually giving you what you wanted to set out for.
Yeah, so my last company that I worked for over a decade was a great company to work for, and I was responsible for the technology team there. But again, it was a publicly listed company, so we had this kind of shareholder. There was always that sort of the pressure around the shareholders. But one of the things that I've been able to balance on the Energise side is that there are projects which we have taken on, which we probably haven't made any money out of in terms of profit. We would always try and breaking even's always going to be the goal. But there's a number of things that we've done as well that we've tried to put things back into the community. So at the beginning of COVID, we offered free support to small charities, and that involved a number of kind of conversations, discussions where, we'd hop on a call with charities and ask them, what they were struggling with. And it was fairly common themes at that point in time. So, is how can we make remote working happen? All of those kind of things. And that was a good example of where we can just go, actually, this is a good thing to do as a business. It's not going to make us any money. And actually the organizations that we were engaging with weren't the size of people that would ever be able to afford to probably take services of a software development company. But actually, you're using your expertise to try and benefit other people. We also have a new product that's been launched in the past kind of few months, which is focused around governance and compliance for organizations, and charities would be a really good example of that. And now, again, coming back to that control element, what we've been able to do is say, we're going to offer a free version for charities and then a paid for one for larger charities and kind of private organizations. So, what we're doing is, taking some of the profit that we're making from customers and pushing that back into tools which we hope will be useful for the wider community.
Excellent. I really like that. Yeah. You've got that power to be able to do that within your business because of your business ethics as driving your thinking about how the business grows. And I liked your thought there in terms of growing organically that allows you to do that. Okay, so let's talk a bit about your customers. So how do you find your customers? What's your sort of approach to finding them and engaging with them?
Yeah, pretty much. I would say 95% of our work has come through word of mouth. So referrals, people that we've worked with, people that either I've worked with in the past under different, with different organisations, or word of mouth for people that we've worked through since the kind of start of Energise, really. So yeah, it's primarily been through word of mouth. Although we do have a dedicated kind of marketing person, and that was part of the decision again to try and outreach a little bit more than you'd ordinarily do. So we do push out a lot of content just for general charity use about technology and things that are going on. We almost see that as part of our ethical aims again to try and make life a little bit easier for everybody.
So you set out in terms of building your business in terms of bringing ethics and to the heart of it and everything you do. So what makes you different? Do you think what are you best at as a business?
I think one of our key sort of differences from a lot of other organisations is that what we're trying to do is almost take a holistic view of an organisation, and there's we want to look at the whole landscape of what's going on in technologies in terms of an organisation, and then trying to work out what is the best solution and best value for money for those organisations, both for now and for longer term, really. So one of the nice things about being able to almost choose your customers, and obviously they choose you as well, but what we've sort of got to is the point where actually, if we're working with small organisations that we genuinely believe in, so a lot of this is if I had a chunk of money to invest in a company or an organisation or a cause, would I actually do that? And they're the kind of customers that we really want, in that Becoming X is a really good example that, you know, they've expanded hugely as an organization. We were with them very early in their journey, but as time's gone on, we've done more and more work with them because of the relationship and the sort of partnership that we've got there, and that's helped us scale our business. So, you know, you're almost you're working with smaller organizations and ones that you believe in, and in many ways sort of banking on them being successful, because that helps you to sort of exponentially scale your business in a way. If you pick in the entrepreneurs and the successful people, then you can help them, because it has to be a two-way thing. So we're working in partnership with them. As I said, we all have to make money. You know, we're a business. It would be wrong for me to sit here and say that making a profit isn't important, because it is. But there's a balance there, and you know, if we can help an organisation to grow in their early stages, then I firmly believe that when they become more successful in the future, that actually there's a 360 thing that comes back round to us and helps us be more successful as a business.
So you helping clients in terms of the charity sector, or people that help people within the charity sector in terms of doing that. So what's the marketplace like? You know, are you the only one in the field? Is it a competitive marketplace?
Yeah, it's a competitive marketplace. I think I think that's where our differentiator is, about understanding the market and the struggles that people are sort of going through, and that there's a really strong kind of core running through the sector around value for money. You know, if you're a charity and you're spending a certain amount on technology, you don't want the money that people have donated to be, you know, wasted, really. And I think that's something that we take on board, is that, you know, we don't work for free. You know, our rates are very reasonable. There are some organisations out there that will work for free, but actually, you know, they'll charge a lot more for supporting and maintaining the software. Like once they've written it, you know, so there's a balance there that, yes, we don't work for free, but we try and offer value for money, and also exactly what the customer needs, and something that will grow with them, as opposed to, you know, just something very specific that they've asked for. So if someone came to us and said, we want a system that will kind of manage our processes and make us more efficient, we would actually take a more holistic view of the whole organisation and say, well, actually, if you start joining some of these things up, you'll get double the benefit from doing this, and it might not cost you a huge amount more, but as an organisation, you'll see a massive improvement.
So is there a change in the marketplace? You know, what are the trends? What do you see coming?
Yeah, I think if you could have picked a worse time to start up an organisation such as ours, it would have been when we did. So the charity sector is really struggling at the moment. I mean, I think across the board, the economy and people are struggling in general, but charities very much so. So they went from COVID, which was a real shift for a lot of organisations, and has put a lot of pressure on some charities, and almost made other charities go by the wayside, really, just because some of the services that they were delivering, you couldn't deliver in a non-face-to-face kind of way. So that's been a real challenge for them. And then I think we moved on. We came out of COVID, and then we've hit a cost of living and funding crisis there as well. So it's been a perfect storm, I think, for charities. So generally funding is down. People aren't in a position where they can donate as much as they used to. I think there's been a knock-on effect from some of the political landscape as well, in the reduction of grants, all of those kind of things. So, yeah, I think from a sector, the theme for the next few years really is one of survival and just trying to deal with the financial crisis that is going to impact on those organisations.
Yeah. It's always sad to hear that, but the charities sector is a huge backbone of actually delivery across the whole country. We always think government is there to deliver, but actually, so much is done by the charities, and the more you get involved with charities, the more you discover just how much is actually done and achieved by them. So, yeah, it's a very important sector in the UK, probably in a lot of countries.
Yeah, it is, and you're absolutely right. I don't think. I think people take it for granted, and I think we would suffer greatly if we lose the sort of the charity organisation kind of collective in the UK. I think we would suffer a lot.
So let's explore a bit more now about the journey of Energise and the creation of it. So how long have you been running?
Well, we started in 2017. So yeah, 6 years.
6 years.
It's flown by, but yes.
So give us some examples. What went well in terms of decisions that you made, and maybe what hasn't gone well, and what did you learn from it?
Yeah, so I'll probably start off with one of the reasons for starting up Energise. Really, just we talked about some of the sort of culture that we tried to create in the organisation, but I've been involved in a startup in the past, and it was great, great fun. There was more of us at that point. So when I started Energise, it was just me, so kind of we were saying growing it organically, and I think that as well brought a lot of challenges. Doing these things on your own builds a lot more kind of stress and pressure, I think, than necessarily doing it in a group. You don't have the same kind of outlook, and you tend to get very introspective in terms of what's going on. And I think having other people around to be able to balance that and just chat things through, and even if you've had a bad call with someone, or something hasn't gone well, you've got that immediate response. And I think that was probably one of the things that I underestimated, but that was all part of the process and was interesting. But really there was a sort of crossroads in my life in a way of how we started. I said I loved working for my old company, but we had a number of large contracts that were coming to an end, and so probably there was I'd been doing the same thing there for a number of years, so you kind of almost get ingrained with that bit of these things were coming to an end. My daughter was just coming up to a change to secondary school, so there was some kind of family bits there, and I probably look back. I don't have many regrets in my life, but I think I could have. There are times, kind of certainly as a parent, that I sort of look back and think actually it would have been nice to be involved a little bit more at various points in terms of just simple things like being there to pick them up from school and stuff like that. It was something that I couldn't necessarily always do in that old role. So it was important for me to take a change in terms of my lifestyle and try and get that better work-life balance. I think I probably work more now than I did then, but I get to do it a little bit more on my terms, and that's really nice from my perspective. So yeah, there was a lot of stuff happened there, and I thought, yeah, okay, it's time to start Energise. As I said, we grew organically. Obviously the one of the key milestones for me was taking on my first employee, which we've kind of taken on, one a year basically over the period of time, and that's worked really, really well. It's there is something there about making sure you get the right people, I think, in a small business. I think probably the attitude and personality of people is just, if not more important than the skills that they've got. I think you can mask personalities a little bit more in a larger organisation, but it's very small. It's very difficult as part of a small team. So that was a big step for us. So we've ended up with some really nice kind of wonderful long-standing customers who saw us through some of those difficult kind of patches. But I'd say some of the bits that I've sort of struggled with, and I'm not saying that things that went badly, but maybe challenges, was around that transition from Energise being perceived as me to Energise being perceived as a company in its own right. And I still don't think we've quite got there.
Yeah.
But it's a difficult thing. People feel that they were buying me, not necessarily the organisation. So that's something that have worked quite hard to try and raise the profile of people inside the organisation to make sure that.
And interesting, that split probably doesn't normally come till you've got about 10 to 12 people in your organisation, that real drive to no longer be the centre of everything in terms of the business and your customer base. So you've started that a lot earlier in terms of your transition. Interesting. So well done.
I think one of the things that I've always tried to do as well is to, I know there's only a handful of us, but I've tried to run the organisation as though it was a big company. So, that's my background in many ways, but I've always thought, okay, where do I want to be 10 years down the line? And I think a lot of people go into starting a business just going, 10 years, someone can buy me out. I can then go and lay on a beach somewhere. And
what does that actually mean?
Yeah. What does that? Yeah. But one of the things that I wanted to make sure was actually, if someone's coming into your organisation doing due diligence on it, actually you want the structures there. You don't want them to be looking at saying, why have you done things in a certain way? And I've got nothing against this, but I've worked with people in the past that have had the sort of limited companies as a wrapper for contracting, stuff like that. And for them it's can I claim back 50% of my broadband bill, or all of those kind of things. And what I've always tried to sort of think is actually let's have the mentality of a larger company and grow into that. And then we're not going to have the kind of questions later on of saying, why do you do this in terms of your expenses when actually it's non, it might not be the same as a big company would do. So that's always been the aim is to set out the structure and the behaviours and the culture that I want, and then hopefully as the company expands, it all kind of fits in.
Yeah, and we often talk to our clients think about the structure of a business in terms of the terminology that we use within the entrepreneurial scale-up system, which is you need bring it, so that might be your sales and marketing. You need do it, the operational activities. You need count it. Yeah, which is can be the IT as well as the accounting side of it. You need lead it, someone to lead all that, and you need somebody to dream it, which is the chairperson, the third to do it. And actually, you need initially you're all of it.
Yep.
Yeah, but over time you've got to separate those out and build that structure. So you're already thinking about that now with only 6 people in business, which is awesome. That's really good.
And I think I've become I don't know if this is just because I've hit a certain age or it's just experience really, but I think I've become very good at understanding what I'm good at and what my strengths are, and then trying to almost to make sure that I've got a team that can complement my deficiencies, if that makes sense. So I think I know broadly what I'm okay at, and actually my team that we've got are very complementary around, both with me and with the others in the team as well. So I think that's a very important thing.
So hiring is a really, really important skill for a business owner as you grow. Eventually, you might outsource that to someone else to do, but that ownership is really, really vitally important. And you've talked about already finding the right people that fit you and fit the needs that you have in terms of doing stuff. So how did you go about finding the right fit for your business?
I've moved away, I think, in many ways from doing interviews in a kind of standard kind of way, because I think that does cover you for, basic kind of competencies. But as I said before, I think it's, in a small business, it's really important that the personalities gel just as much as someone, being able to sort of technically capable of doing the job. So that's the bit that I've tended to focus on mostly in the recruitment process. And we've done sort of various bits to try and make sure that works. I mean, I still think it's really nice in recruitment to try and see people face to face. And I know that's been challenging, but we've tried to do that as much as we can. I'm also, I think one of the advantages, again, of having a smaller business is that you're not restricted to looking for people which fit a certain kind of mold in a way. So we can be completely flexible in terms of our working. So it doesn't matter where you are, what hours you want to work, as long as it fits in with what the team needs to be able to do. But what we've found is that that's opened us up to a whole bunch of people that you wouldn't normally find. So we've got one of our employees spent 10 months of the past year in Bali, spent a couple of months in Spain. That makes no difference to us as an organisation, but it fits in really well with her lifestyle and what she wants to do. So that's a really good example of that might not work in a larger organisation, but again, it's about the people and the personalities and making sure that that you've got good, dedicated people. I'm a firm believer in, if you get the right people, then your business should be successful.
Yes. No, I think it will be. No, there's no should in it. If you find the right people that are dedicated, and then, people put energy into what they believe in, it's getting that belief and that structure right that allows people to do that. I was going to ask you how many people are actually remote in terms of doing it. So there's definitely one. And any others remote?
Yeah. So pretty much all but me. I mean, we do have an office. We're based in Tetbury, but we moved in here just before COVID. So again, perfect timing. But actually, we've kept the office because I think it's nice to have a base where people can come and meet up face to face. And actually see other people, and we've almost set it up as a sort of project space as opposed to standard offices. So there's a big meeting room and those kind of things. So the aim longer term, and certainly when we're talking about some of our our products which we're developing and launching, actually having somewhere where you can invite people in and do workshops and training, those kind of things, I think will pay dividends in the long run.
Yeah. So one of the things then, as your business is more remote, which is brilliant. I can remember years ago reading an article about a software company whose everybody was from all around the world, and they were already at 50 size headcount in terms of doing that. And they were going, "What's all these people worried about offices and all that sort of stuff? We're all nomads, yet we're a really successful software company." So I always think that's really, and that was long before COVID and all the concepts of Zoom. So how do you manage to ensure that the right things are being done in the business?
Yeah, so I think that's everybody, knowing what's going on in a way. I mean, we've got, I was talking about earlier that I've tried to implement a proper structure. So, I've got a development manager that looks after all the development, and, it's a small team underneath him, but, the structure's there. He manages all the development. We talk on a regular basis. There are, my background is software development. So, at various points, I'll say to him, actually I've got a bit of capacity, or, there's pressure coming up with a certain project, give me a whole bunch of software to do, and I'll merrily work my way through that. And at that point, he's in charge of the work that I'm doing at that point. He's there to make sure the quality is of a good standard. And if my stuff isn't, then he's perfectly at liberty to tell me to redo it or fix it or comment on it. So
brilliant.
You're never too in a place that you shouldn't learn and shouldn't take advice and those kind of things from other people. So we do a lot of that kind of stuff. But I think it's just sort of just keeping in touch with people and making sure that everybody's clear about what there is to do. I think one of the bits that, again, this comes back to sort of some of my experience of running software teams, really. But I try, in many ways, I try to isolate the development team from the kind of the deadlines that we've got. And I don't necessarily think it's always good to put people under pressure. I mean, specifically, like, we've got developers here, but quality is an important thing. And I sometimes think that if you're passing the pressure of the timescales on to other people, it's not necessarily a good thing. I kind of think if you've employed the right people, then the job takes as long as it takes, right? If I've done the estimating and I've got it wrong, that's not the development team's fault, really. And with anything in life, sometimes things take less time. Most of the time, things take longer, don't they? And and that's just that's life. And so I've tried to isolate the development team from that kind of pressure so that they can just focus on what they do well. And we're pretty good with deadlines. There's not many that we would miss at all. But I don't. I think just getting those people to focus on that and focus on the quality, then it's my job to talk to the customer if we're running late or if it's gone over budget. That those kind of things.
Do you use any sort of agile methodology at all? Yeah,
absolutely. So yes, just a simple answer to that. We've got a combination of different bits of software. So we use the Microsoft DevOps. So and all of our stuff is CI/CD for the kind of technology people out of there. So and all of our hosting is in Microsoft Azure. So we've got fairly sort of efficient pipelines that go all the way through there. We tend to run our projects themselves through Monday. So do things through there just because it's quite a nice sort of interface. And then we manage the development off of as one stream off of that. So that's our kind of two primary blocks of kind of management software, really.
Right. Yeah, I've built Scrum and Kanban systems in the past in software development. So if we have a coffee sometime, we'll have a good discussion about advantages and disadvantages. But the most important thing in all of Agile, I think, is what you've hit on, which is the people.
Yeah,
it's not about the process. If you involve the people, if the people understand the structure and what we need to do, and they are involved with it, they step up to amazing levels, including software developers, which we always think like to hide away in dark rooms, but they are amazing people, just like anybody else you meet in life.
It is, and I think the kind of superpower almost of developers in a way is that they're exceptional problem solvers.
Yeah.
Yes, you can get them to develop, but there's a huge sort of untapped capacity there to come up with, fixes to problems and new ideas and those kind of things. And I think that's, that's really important. So, engaging them closer to the customer, if you see what I mean, so that they understand what the customer needs, because otherwise you're always going through some kind of translation exercise, and what you end up is, you as the customer contact end up shaping the solution, whereas actually it's quite nice for somebody else to have an input into that, so that it's, you've got the range of ideas and solutions, because the more ideas you've got, the better the outcome's going to be at the end, I think.
And from my experience, when you do that, you get better solutions faster, which is always counterintuitive against most technology people, because they don't believe that. So but anyway, we're not here to talk about agile. We're talking about business and business scaling and growth. So one final question around business thinking is, how do you keep an eye on the cash? Because cash is king is really important in any business. What do you do?
Cash is king. So again, this has been one of my focuses for the business. Is I tend not to look at profit and revenue in a huge amount of detail. I mean, I do, but my primary kind of goal is cash flow, and that is where I've always got my eye on. Really, I mean, I think the statistics are quite clear, aren't they? That the majority of businesses fail because of a lack of cash flow, as opposed to a lack of kind of work coming in. So I've always taken the view that I would rather take a lower revenue but better cash flow, just to make sure that we've got enough in the bank to pay the bills and the staff and those kind of things. So yeah, that's always been the approach, and that served us very well to this point.
And is there any specific tactics or things that you use to ensure the cash is flowing in?
Picking the customers, and as I said, they pick you as well. But
yeah,
I think we've had some. Again, it's a relationship there, isn't it? In that, saying that we work with a range of kind of organisations, and I think there's an understanding there that all organisations go through pressure in various stages. So, I'm quite open with our customers as to when it's important for them to pay their bills and when it's not, if that makes sense. I think it's important that people pay, but sometimes organisations are going through cash flow issues themselves, and if we can help and understand that as a business, then I think that's great. That helps build the partnership. So and I think it's good to have those kind of conversations with your customers. It's a real genuine partnership conversation that just says, actually, I know you guys are struggling. You don't need to pay us for a couple of weeks because we've got enough in the bank to deal with that. And conversely, you can, if you're struggling cash flow wise, you can go and just go, be really good if you could pay that on time this month, or a little bit early. And, it works out for both kind of parties. And I think that's a conversation that people very rarely have with their customers. And I think you need to have good relations with those people. But it's been a real strong point for some of the bits that we've been through. And actually, when we've been working through projects, cash flow is one of the things for us that I will talk through the customer. I said there earlier that cash flow is probably more important than ultimate profit for us. But I will be quite open with them and just say, actually, we've got peaks and troughs in terms of our cash flow. So, can we phase some of these milestones to cover that kind of work as well? And 9 times out of 10, it's absolutely fine.
And I would venture to guess that actually that ability to have that conversation with your clients around that is actually drives from your ethics. So you're finding those customers that you can have that, but you're also choosing the right ones that match your ethics that would then allow that conversation to take place. They're not adversarial. They're a partnership in terms of what you're trying to do and achieve. So that definitely stems from your values and your ethics. So brilliant. Well, So if we were to meet in 5 years' time, and we're looking back now for the last 5 years, what's happened to be both for you personally and also professionally within the business to make those 5 years a really big success?
Yeah, so our next big phase of development for us as an organisation is to continue our work in development of our products. So one of the key aims for starting up Energise was to develop a set of products and tools to help organisations manage governance and compliance broadly. So that might be against frameworks such as, if you're thinking about an educational organisation, it could be the Ofsted inspection framework. I mean, it's quite heavily in the news at the moment, but you can having a tool where, it could be health and safety, or it could be an ISO 9000, ISO 27000 kind of thing. So there's tools around managing that compliance and helping make it easier. And again, on building on the ethics of the organisation, making it a kind of collaborative sort of, I was going to say, it's never going to be an enjoyable experience, but building on the kind of communication, the collaboration, those kind of things to help improve standards and quality in an organisation. So that's our plan. So really, we've got certain pillars inside of the sort of organisation, that we've got our software development, so projects that we do on behalf of other people. There's our technical kind of consulting bit, and our advice and guidance bit, and then the third pillar would be that products. So I think in 5 years, it would be good for that products bit to take more and more share of the revenue inside the organisation. So that's really it from a business perspective. But I think there's, I'd like for us as an organisation again to have more impact in our local community and with the organisations that we work with. So again, getting this kind of feedback loop just to make sure that we're making as positive impact on the people, on the lives of the people around us that we can.
And what would get in the way of you achieving that?
That's a good question. I'm not sure I can see very much at the moment. I think we're going to be fine with that. I think there's a balance there. So with things like, again, we were talking about the kind of organic growth of these things, is that there's always challenges there where we take on a certain project, but we know that might put the roadmap back for the products for a certain period of time. So there's always been that balance between the two. So we build up a chunk of cash in the business, and then we basically put that onto the product development. So there might be phases there where actually the products don't, the roadmap doesn't get fulfilled as much as we would like, purely because we're doing other things in terms of the projects, and that might be driven by the fact that we need more cash flow. So yeah, there's a lot of juggling, but yeah, I'm pretty confident that we'll be in a good, in a really good place in kind of 5 years. I think, we've been through the first 5 years, and I think that's normally the most challenging part for a lot of organisations. So yeah, hopefully we're on an absolutely upward trajectory.
Brilliant, Neil. Thanks very much for this conversation. It's been fascinating to hear the journey that you're on for Energise, the fact that you're building it around a set of ethics, that you've been growing it organically because you want to take control of those ethics in terms of doing that, your marketplace in terms of who you serve and how you serve them, to be able to be successful for them, the charity and the education sector, in terms of doing that. I love the conversation around your governance and control around how you pick the right people to fit your organization, because actually that's so key in small businesses, and how to make that happen and grow. But also, I love the selection almost of partly self-selection, but selection of the right customers, and having that beautiful relationship to even have that conversation about payment terms and what needs to happen in terms of cash flow, is absolutely brilliant in terms of that, and the family ethics that you've brought. And the reason for partly setting the business was around some of the family ethics that you wanted to, but you brought that into the business and the structure of it, and allowing people to work all around the world. That's just absolutely awesome. Lots of people talk about it, but we really do that in terms of doing things. So it's been a fantastic conversation, and some real takeaways and some great points for our audience to pick up on. But we always finish with a quick fire round. Okay, so we've got a few questions to finish off our conversation. So first things that come to point into your head in terms of that. So if you were to go back to younger you, what advice would you give yourself?
That family is more important than career.
Fantastic. Which books would you recommend?
Well, I can tell you the book I'm reading at the moment, which is a book called Cobalt Red. And this was part of, again, so this isn't particularly quick fire, so apologies for that. Is one of the things that I've read a lot of the sort of normal business kind of books, and they're brilliant. And there's most things you can just go, yeah, okay, I can see how I can apply these things, and it'll. So Cobalt Red is about the impact on. Basically technology, and this one's about people mining cobalt and stuff for batteries. And I think one of the things that I'm trying to do in 2023 is to look at the supply chain of all of these things, and make sure that the supply chain is as robust and again ethical as it can be. So that's my kind of focus for books. But yeah, Cobalt Red at the moment is a good one to read.
Brilliant. Fascinating. Yes, I'll definitely look at that one. Which podcasts do you recommend?
Oh, obviously apart from this one. So the one I'm listening to most at the moment, and I tend to find a podcast and then just go back through all of them almost, and listen in one go. So the one I've been listening to most recently is the Diary of a CEO. Probably a fairly standard answer, but it's very good.
And what apps on your phone make the most difference or gives you the best benefit?
Oh, again, for a technology person, I love a pen and a diary and a notepad. So I think I'm a massive Instagram fan. I tend not to use much in the way of phones for productivity. I've got my kind of email calendar, all of those kind of bits. But I do love Instagram, not just because I think it's a really kind of a nice, easily digestible way of getting lots of kind of content sort of quite quickly.
Okay, fantastic. My favorite question of all, who's had the most influence on you as a business leader?
Oh, that is a good question. I'm torn between three people maybe here. Okay. So one have been my old boss in my last organization. She was absolutely amazing. So I worked for her for probably eight or so years, and she had such a good balance in terms of how she approached things. I don't think I've ever met anyone that was as clever as she was, but it was the way she used her kind of intellect to get what she kind of wanted, if you see what I mean. And it was always a really impressive thing to kind of watch. So that was really good from that perspective. And probably the other two biggest influences on on the way I kind of do stuff is probably my wife and my daughter in a way, and just the stuff that you learn trying to be a good husband and father, and probably failing both of those fairly dismally, to be honest. But yeah.
Oh, thank you for your honesty. No, that's fantastic. To think. And then finally, how can people get hold of you?
Right. So this is a really easy one. So we've set up a page on our kind of website, just so people have got a really good an easy way to come and look at us. So our website is www.energisetechnology.co.uk. And if you go to that web address /ScaleUp, we've got a page there which has got a bit of information about us. We've set up a bit of a not really a competition, but the first 50 people that sign up through there will get a free gift from us. In return for that, we'll send you an email with our kind of brochure and some of the stuff for which we do. We're always happy to talk to people. In fact, we do a number of, as I said before, kind of discovery calls. We call them with charities and stuff, where we would book them in for a half an hour slot where people can just chat about their kind of problems and we can give them advice, stuff like that. So always more than happy to talk to people. It's one of the things that is really important as a small business, I think, is to talk to different people. So yeah, I'd be delighted to hear from anyone.
Oh, Neil Cullen, Energise, thank you so much for a fantastic conversation today.
Thank you. It's been really good to speak to you.
I hope you enjoyed that discussion, and if you're building and scaling your own business, you might well be interested in our book, The Entrepreneurial Scale-Up System. And it's exactly what it says on the tin. It's a practical handbook around scaling a business in a structured way. And you can order a copy on all your favourite online retailers, including an audio version, or you can find it and other supporting resources on our website, www.esusgroup.co.uk. That's esusgroup.co.uk, which is esusgroup.co.uk.
This has been a Monkey Pants Productions podcast.